Hello and welcome to Meet the Candidates, a candidate forum for Blaine City Council Ward 1 special election, presented by the League of Women Voters of Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids area. I'm Gretchen Sable, a trained moderator and a member of LWV ABC. I live in Andover and I'm not able to vote for any of these candidates. This special election is to fill the open seat in Ward 1, and it's a 2-year term. The League of Women Voters has a 100-year-old long history of providing objective information to help voters become informed about candidates and issues. LWV does not support or oppose any political parties or candidates. The League does help citizens become informed voters, and we advocate for important issues that we have studied. This Meet the Candidates Forum is about informing voters. If you're interested in learning more about the League of Women Voters, visit our webpage, lwvabcmn.org. We invite people of all genders, gender identities, and anyone over the age of 16 to join. To begin the forum, the candidates will answer 2 introductory questions they received in advance, followed by questions submitted by the public via our website. We'll end with closing statements. Candidates will take turns going first in answering questions. Answers are limited to 90 seconds each for the 2 introductory questions and 1 minute each for the other questions and closing statements. This forum is being recorded tonight without an audience. We thank the City of Blaine and NorthMetro Cable for their support and assistance. LWV forums are posted on the LWV ABC YouTube channel and are cablecast by NorthMetro Cable. LWV ABC posts complete, unedited recordings of forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan political purposes. This forum is for Blaine City Council Ward 1 special election, and the candidates are Dick Swanson and Lori Saroya. All the candidates for this seat were invited to attend, and we're very pleased to say that they're all with us tonight. So now let's get into the questions. The first question: what is your motivation to run for this office, and what experience or knowledge would you have to help serve you serve effectively? And you have 90 seconds. Candidate Saroya.
Great. Thank you so much for the opportunity and for hosting this forum. So my name is Lori Saroya, and I have lived in Blaine for 18 years. I've been on the Blaine Charter Commission for 7 years. I am a graduate of Mitchell Hamlin School of Law, and I've done a lot of work around contracts and compliance. I've served on numerous boards and commissions throughout the state, and my entire career of 2 decades has focused on nonprofit executive leadership. So I bring a tremendous amount of experience to the City Council. And I'm also the recipient of the Governor's Community Service Leadership Award. And I'm just so grateful for the Blaine community, especially Ward 1. We won first in the primary election, and that really shows that the community is ready to move forward and is ready for change. And that's really what my motivation is based on. My motivation to run for City Council comes from serving and advocating for Ward 1 residents. Like I said, I've lived here 18 years. I have knocked on nearly 3,000 doors just in the past few months. And I hear the same thing from a lot of residents in Ward 1. And that is that, they've seen so much development in Ward 1, in Blaine, but the question is, what about Ward 1? When are we going to focus on Highway 65 and the Northtown property and the infrastructure and the suicide epidemic and really advocate for Ward 1?
Thank you very much. Candidate Swanson, what is your motivation to run for this office, and what experience or knowledge would help you to serve effectively?
Okay, I'm Dick Swanson. I've lived in Ward 1 continuously since 1983. 26 of those years I've served Ward 1 as its council person. The reason I'm running is with this election, we could have so many brand new councilmen on the city council that rather than having an advantage of having new blood, we have chaos of having too much new blood at one time. So I'm running to see if the voters want somebody who knows how the city actually works. I understand the Ward 1 because in my time in the ward, I've been the president of a townhome association, west of 65. I've lived in a small townhouse east of 65. I've built a home and lived in it on the far eastern side of Blaine, the forgotten part of Blaine. And now as a senior, I moved back into a small, easy to maintain house on the west side of Blaine. So I've been on east, west, middle, and I understand all the different neighborhoods. I've got a master's degree in public administration. Before I retired, I was director of finance for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I've served on many committees. I'm currently on the I'm currently on the Charter Commission. I'm rather disappointed that in the last 5 years, the Charter Commission has met less than 10 times, which is really disappointing.
Thank you very much, Candidate Swanson. You're up first on the next question, Candidate Swanson. What are your top 2 goals for the future of Blaine? You can have more than 2.
My top goal right now is the continuation of Highway 65. We were so close, and then the legislature didn't pass the bonding bill. The last time I heard, we were about 20 million short of the needed funding. The plans are all in place. Once the funding is there, the project can happen, contrary to what a lot of people are saying. But the legislature has to pass the bill. It was in the bonding bill. We had $9 million in that bill, which would have made us only $11 million short, which for a multi-hundred-million-dollar project is nothing. But then the legislature, in its wisdom, decided not to fund it. My other goal is to maintain the long history Blaine has of being the lowest tax, best service city in Anoka County. We've done that for over the 20 years I've been on the council. We've managed to get up to a bond rating of the AAA, which is the best in the city. When you look at the total cost, taxes, water, sewer, garbage, we are the lowest city in Anoka County. That's a full-service city, and we're among the lowest in the whole metropolitan area. So
Thank you.
that's basically my main goals, is to maintain Blaine as the kind of place people want to come and live. And I think in my time in Blaine, we have seen that that is how Blaine has worked.
Thank you very much. Candidate Saroya, what are your top 2 goals for the future of Blaine? And you don't have to limit yourself to 2.
Okay, thank you. So we are at a pivotal moment in Blaine, especially in Ward 1, and we cannot keep doing things the same way we have done them the past 30 years. So I strongly believe that new blood is good. We have a city council that has new energy, new ideas, a new vision for this city. For the first time, we have actual funding and actual plans to fix Highway 65. We have great ideas for the Northtown property, and we just have to keep moving forward. I think that's what I bring. So my main goal for Blaine Ward 1 is to focus on the residents of Blaine Ward 1, because like I said, they are feeling that they have been left behind. I had one neighbor tell me that he feels like there are 2 Blaines that look and feel very different. One part of the city, you have the big mansions going up and the new houses, and in Ward 1, we're dealing with an increase in crime, we're dealing with homelessness, businesses moving out. We're dealing with a suicide epidemic, a mall that is falling apart, to be honest, a dangerously unsafe highway, and serious infrastructure problems. So we cannot just continue to carry on as if these things do not matter, and we need to invest in Ward 1. We need to hold town halls and engage with our community and talk about how we're going to complete Highway 65, how we're going to include residents' voices in the Northtown property, how we're going to have responsible and strategic growth in our communities, and how we're going to have smart fiscal management of our tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to the 60-second questions. Candidate Saroya, what does community safety mean to you?
Yes, community safety to me means many different things. So one of my priorities, as I've mentioned, is addressing the suicide epidemic in Blaine, especially in Ward 1. I have met with so many families who are really struggling with mental health, with bullying in Blaine schools. And there was actually a recent report that found that in Anoka County, suicide rates among youth have hit an all-time high since 2020. So this is an area that all parts of the city, including the city council, need to really get involved in. The other part, of course, is community safety, and this is a big concern in Ward 1 especially. I just met a neighbor who said that, her car was stolen. We've had 2 police chases in my neighborhood just in the past few weeks. We have increase in thefts, people breaking into homes, and just an unprecedented level of crime in Blaine Ward 1 specifically. And we have an amazing police department that is working hard to address these issues.
Thank you very much. Candidate Swanson, what does community safety mean to you?
Community safety is composed of many things. It's health, education, the perception of safety, the police department, the fire department, the emergency service, EMTs, and it's maintaining that the individual living in the community feels safe. If they don't feel safe, it doesn't matter what the statistics say. But we have to get that sense of safety back, because right now out there, people are frightened more than I've ever seen them being frightened, and that's a problem. A big question that, in my mind, is maintaining the fire department. Blaine has basically a volunteer fire department with Spring Lake Park and Mounds View, but it's a volunteer fire department, and in order to keep it going, we have to be able to maintain the quality of service for those people serving in the department. That means keeping them equipment, making them safe, and there's a major cancer issue right now with the new buildings.
Thank you very much, Candidate Swanson. Candidate Swanson again, what role do labor unions play in Blaine? Are they important? Why or why not?
Labor unions are very important. We have a lot of union people living in the city. We also have a lot of small businessmen living in the city, many of whom are union members, because if you're running a construction company and you want to run a piece of your own equipment, you really have to be a 49er or belong to one of the other operating engineers. So we have a lot of union people in Blaine. It's important to keep our fire, the few professionals we have in the police, unionized, and we keep most of our public works men and women are unionized. So the role of the unions in Blaine is important. It's not the only important role. Small businessmen play a major important role, as do our larger employers. But everybody in Blaine fits together in some synergy to make Blaine the place it is today.
Thank you very much, Candidate Swanson. Candidate Saroya, what role do labor unions play in Blaine? Are they important? Why or why not?
Absolutely. I think unions are extremely important, and I'm the only candidate in this race in the special election that is labor endorsed. I have the endorsement of the Carpenters Union, the AFL-CIO, AFSCME, and Teamsters Local 120, as well as others. So I support having laborers, because with labor unions comes high-quality work and standards. And just in my neighborhood, a neighbor reported a sinkhole in front of their home, and if you look into it, it's filled with sand. And so that kind of work is not the kind of quality that we should be giving our residents in Blaine. And the money with union labor typically stays in the community, and that's extremely important. We don't want outside contractors coming in, doing, work quickly and effectively, and then taking our money outside of the state. So unions are extremely important.
Thank you very much. Candidate Saroya, what are your thoughts on the new ban on drag racing? Is the penalty appropriate?
Absolutely. I think people are just sick and tired of the, constant speeding, the traffic issues, the drag racing, the Highway 65 accidents. I saw a really major accident on Highway 65 where a young man was killed 10 years ago. This summer, a woman was killed. And we need to take concrete steps to address these issues with traffic. And so by taking the lead on this, and I understand Blaine is one of the first cities to pass a ban like this, it shows real leadership of the city. So I fully support it, and I think we do need to focus more on bans and also just providing opportunities. I think a lot of the people that are engaging in drag racing, maybe what options do they have? What other activities are they really engaged in? Do we have, opportunities for them? So I think looking at it as a ban on drag racing, but also looking at it as a community issue in terms of, we're advocating for the people.
Thank you. Candidate Swanson, what are your thoughts on the new ban on drag racing? Is the penalty appropriate?
I think that the ban is probably needed, particularly on city streets. I mean, the one thing we have to remember is speeding is probably the biggest single problem in the city today. If you talk to 10 people, 9 of them are going to mention speeding within 15 minutes at a time. But the thing to remember with speeding is it's not somebody else's problem. It's my problem, your problem, our sons and daughters' problems. We all are responsible for the speeding that's going on. And until each of us takes on our own sensibility to stop speeding and talk to our neighbors, speeding is going to keep going. As far as the penalties, I think until we see if they work or not, we'll have to assume that they're rational. There's some concern about is the definition lapping over into the private property car show. If it does lap over like that, then it's going to have to be changed to some extent.
Thank you, Candidate Swanson. Candidate Swanson, what does community engagement mean to you, and how will you collaborate with the community you represent?
I think this is one area where Blaine today is really falling down. I'm amazed that in the time I've been off council, how much people no longer understand what's actually happening in the city. And I think part of it is the newsletter has probably drifted a little bit into being a feel nice rather than an information piece. I think we probably, and if I'm elected, I will go back to having the neighborhood meetings, even though they weren't being well attended, but they're a way to let the neighbors know that you're interested in what's happening, and they're a pressure valve. If there's issues building by having neighborhood meetings, you're going to suddenly see, rather than 2 or 3 people you always get, you'll find 20 people. That tells you there's a problem. So the community involvement builds up that way.
Thank you, Candidate Swanson. Candidate Saroya, what does community engagement mean to you, and how will you collaborate with the community you represent?
Yes, I'm seeing unprecedented levels of community engagement from this current city council. Like I said, I've lived in the same house for nearly 2 decades, and I've never had a city council member knock on my door. And, and that level of engagement, I think, we have people that are sending letters to the city council, that are coming to the city council meetings and expressing themselves. And one thing I really want to focus on as a Ward 1 council member is to do town halls and continue that outreach and engagement with the community. Like I said, I've door knocked almost 3,000 doors and have talked to a lot of people. And it's really about building those relationships, right? So you're not just there as their council member, but you're their neighbor, you're their friend, you're their colleague. And it's also about showing up for them when they need you the most. I've attended multiple community events and gatherings, fundraisers. There was a bench memorial dedication at the Veterans Memorial that I helped organize, and there's just so much opportunity to do community outreach.
Thank you very much, Candidate Saroyan. So what is happening with the rebuilding of Northtown property, and how will you involve public opinion? Candidate Saroya.
Yeah, that's a really big issue in Northtown, in Ward 1 specifically. And I think what I'm hearing from people is that there is a lot of community outreach in Blaine from the city council, but not from Ward 1. And that's really why I'm running, because we need someone who is going to show up for Ward 1 and engage with Ward 1 residents. We shouldn't expect a ward to city council member to deal with Ward 1 problems, which is what is happening now, unfortunately. So we really need strong leadership and a strong voice on the city council in Ward 1 who will advocate for the community. And the Northtown property is a really good example. So right now, it's nothing is set in stone, but there is concern around the high-rise apartments in that area. We already have a lot of apartments going up in Ward 1, and that is an issue that we need to bring to the community. And again, my goal is to bring the community together, especially the people that live in that area near the Northtown property, and talk about the plan and how to move forward on that.
Thank you very much. Candidate Swanson, what is happening with the rebuilding of the Northtown property, and how will you involve public opinion?
I'm of two minds. Northtown has been a problem as long as I've lived in Blaine. It's always been a place where the local management is very good. Unfortunately, by the time the local management gets a decision made and moved up to the absentee landowners, it dies. We've had 4 or 5 major restaurants that wanted to be there, but the 6 months has taken the absent owners to make a decision. They've left. I think we have entirely too much commercial in the Northtown area, and we need some residential there, but I feel right now that the First Ward has had way too much apartment construction. Blaine needs affordable housing, but it's time for the other 2 wards to stand up and take their fair share of the affordable housing.
Thank you very much. Candidate Swanson, what does diversity mean to you, and how does it help us grow and prosper in Blaine?
I think diversity, to me, means people of different viewpoints, different life, different experiences, and everybody brings something unique to the city. If it's life as a transplant from another country, if it's somebody moving from the West Coast, if it's somebody who's grown up in poverty, or if it's somebody who's running a small business, we all have certain unique things to offer. And diversity means that we have to recognize and listen to each other, not speak over each other, which is what we have a tendency to do. Everybody feels that their own life experience is the only one that's important, and to really get the benefit of diversity, you have to sit back and not speak, but listen, absorb, and then react based on the total picture of life.
Thank you very much. Candidate Saroya, what does diversity mean to you, and how does it help us grow and prosper in Blaine?
Well, I think diversity is a reality that we're seeing in Blaine and in all parts of the state. Blaine is not the same city that it was 30 years ago. And I think that is something that we need to really recognize and embrace as a community. And, when I'm talking about diversity, I'm, not just talking about racial and religious, but economic diversity. We have young families that are moving into the city. We have a Ward 1 that's really struggling in a lot of ways. We have people with special needs that are not getting the help that they need. I actually door knocked on several homes where the individuals spoke American Sign Language, and I was unable to communicate with them, and plan on going back and having an ASL interpreter with me. And so just those things that we don't really think of when it comes to diversity in our town, that these are also Blaine residents that we need to engage and make sure they're part of the process.
Thank you very much. Candidate Saroya, Blaine does not receive local government aid from the state. As a member of City Council, would you seek to change this, and if so, how?
Yeah, I think definitely we need to diversify our funding sources. Right now, Our property taxes are too high. About 75% of the budget of the city comes from property taxes. And one thing that I'm really surprised to learn is that we are not applying for grants as a city. Blaine is in the bottom 5% when it comes to applying for grants. And when I brought this up with city council members, their response was, well, this is how it's always been done. Staff has been instructed not to apply for grants. And the new city council, their vision actually includes applying for grants. So that's something that I'm really grateful for. And I think we definitely need to look at ways to diversify our funding for the city. The PGA tournament brought in $50 million to our city. And the question I have on that is, that's wonderful, but how much of that $50 million stays in Ward 1, and how is it benefiting Ward 1 residents?
Thank you, Candidate Saroya. So, Candidate Swanson, Blaine does not receive local government aid from the state. As a member of City Council, would you seek to change this, and how?
Okay, first of all, I agree with Lori that we are too dependent on property tax. And over the years, when I first came on the council, we went after grants all over the place. We had a lot of grants. In fact, our beginning open space program was filled with grants. But as the council changed, as it got more conservative, the use of grants dropped down because the council wasn't willing. I voted for grants personally. I believe in grants. But one councilman can do absolutely nothing on the council. If you have 4 or 5, you can make a lot of impact. The big thing as a councilman, if you're going to have impact on funding, budget, is you have to be able to work with other people. Not having the government aid it's bad that we don't get the revenue. It's good that we don't have the revenue, because when the state takes it away from us, we suddenly don't have a multi-million-dollar hole sitting in our budget.
Thank you. Now we have an environmental question. Candidate Swanson, what could Blaine be doing to reduce the city's carbon footprint, both within government services and for its residents?
Okay. One thing the city should be doing, and I was looking at it when I was last on the council, was converting a lot of its vehicles to either electricity or to natural gas. There are a couple of the big garbage refuge companies that have natural gas trucks, and they have the facilities here to put the natural gas into the vehicles. So Blaine wouldn't have to build that facility. We just have to make some working agreements. We looked at putting solar panels on this building. I'm disappointed that the remodeling didn't do it. With the sports center, we went into a major effort to see about using windmills. Unfortunately, the wind here apparently is not steady enough to make windmills economically feasible, so that didn't work. But there's a lot of things, and working with the electric company and the gas company to improve their service.
Candidate Saroya, what could Blaine be doing to reduce the city's carbon footprint, both within government service and for its residents?
Well, there are many things that we could be doing. One thing that I recently found out is that the vehicles that we're using need to be replaced. And so there is an opportunity there to look at vehicles that are more environmentally friendly. Right, there was a 2021 fleet resizing study, and that found that 44% of our vehicles in the city of Blaine need replacement. Again, this infrastructure is a serious problem. The upkeep of the infrastructure has suffered in Ward 1. We have about $60 million in deferred maintenance, and that's from the past 30 years of the city council's decisions. We have not invested in the upkeep of the city. $60 million worth of deferred maintenance. So I think being environmentally educated and conscious is extremely important, but I feel like there are bigger priorities right now, like making sure people aren't dying on Highway 65, making sure we have buildings that aren't falling apart.
Thank you very much. Candidate Saroya, as a member of the City Council, how would you address the fiscal disparities tax?
I think by investing in our businesses. In Ward 1, we have especially seen a lot of businesses move out. I'm really overwhelmed and shocked by when I drive by that Northtown area, just how empty it looks, and compared to the past 20 years, how different that whole area looks, how people aren't shopping there. So my priority is, rather than depending on these other taxes, really, how do we bring businesses to Blaine? How do we make that area appealing to businesses and make it an area where businesses want to be there? I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't have a nice, nice stores and nice malls. Like if you look at Maple Grove or Woodbury or even Coon Rapids, they have really nice malls that bring money into the city. So again, my priority is supporting the businesses that are already there, making sure they are getting the customer base and the help that they need. And one thing I also want to add is I don't support a local sales tax, as my opponent has previously tried to advocate for.
Okay, thank you. So candidate Swanson, as a member of the city council, how would you address the fiscal disparities tax?
First of all, it's a lie that I support a sales tax. I brought it up in one brainstorming session, along with a lot of other things from other councilmen, but that particular thing got put forward. It was never moved as a motion to do a sales tax.
Opposed.
The fiscal disparity tax, I'm not opposed to it because Blaine, as a growing community, has been generating the tax. Basically, what the fiscal disparity tax does is it takes a certain amount of all the new revenue coming into the metro area and distributes it back. So the cities that don't have growth don't go out of their way to compete with the cities that are getting the growth because they get a certain part of that tax back. So that's important. Right now, Blaine has been a growing community in the industrial area. All you have to do in the first ward, go down and look at the huge 35W warehouse area that's in the process of being built. There's probably 100,000 square feet there of warehouse work.
Thank you, candidate Swanson. We're going to look at Northtown Shopping Center and the question of crime. What can be done to decrease the amount of crime around Northtown Shopping Center and make it safer for customers, especially when walking to their cars? Candidate Swanson?
First of all, I'm the councilman who got the original police unit stationed at Northtown, which helped some, but a certain amount of it is perception. And part of it is the fact that you've got so many empty stores in Northtown, which is not something that can be done by the city. It has to be done by the merchants. Part of that is there's too much retail in the Northtown area. Actually, one of the three malls should probably not exist. Either what was the old supermarket off of Jefferson, or the B. Dalton Mall, or Northtown should probably be taken out because there's just too much retail there and you're never going to fill it in today's world.
Thank you, candidate Swanson. Candidate Saroya, what can be done to decrease the amount of crime around Northtown Shopping Center and make it safer for customers, especially when walking to their cars?
I think the key is to have those conversations. Right now in Ward 1, we're not really having conversations around crime and safety. One thing I want to bring to Ward 1 is a community safety forum in partnership with our police department, because our police department does have a vision. They have a plan on how to reduce crime, and supporting them and funding them and making sure we're providing the police department the resources they need to address crime is extremely important. But I also think having more police presence in Ward 1 especially is really important. We're not just dealing with car issues or car thefts or inconveniences. I mean, I'm talking about a shooting that occurred in Blaine not too long ago in that area. So I'm seeing an escalation in crime to a level that I haven't seen in the decades that I've lived here. And that, to me, is extremely concerning and needs our immediate attention. And bringing the community together to have those conversations is the first step to resolving it.
Thank you, Candidate Saroya. A little lighter question. Candidate Saroya, what is your favorite place to walk, bike, or enjoy nature in Blaine?
Well, that's a good question. So I think, so last time I said Aquator Park, so I won't say that again, but although it is a really beautiful place to walk and just, enjoy nature. But one place that I really enjoy, and I've discovered this just actually within the past year and a half, is the Veterans Memorial right here, Tom Ryan Park. And it's just a really peaceful place to be. I know the individual, Mr. Geider, who has organized that, has done tremendous work in upkeeping it and planting flowers and just making it a really beautiful, peaceful place for it to be. So that's something where I just find myself just reflecting and sitting and finding peace in the community.
Thank you very much. Candidate Swanson, what's your favorite place to walk, bike, or enjoy nature in Blaine?
There are many great places in Blaine. You've got the wetlands area, you've got the park right here where it's different needs. You've got Aquator Park if you want an active area with the senior center and the Fogarty curling rink. My favorite place, and I hate to mention it because it's kind of forgotten about, is Cane Meadows Park, which is buried in the First Ward. It's got a little fishing area, and I've never catch anything, but it's there. And a lot of walking area, a nice trail comes off of it. That's a multi-mile trail to walk the dogs. So it's a nice quiet. It's got some good area for children if that's what you want, even though I prefer to go to the more quiet part of it where you can either sit and pretend to fish or take the dog and go walking along the trails and disturb the turkeys and chipmunks.
Thank you very much. So it's time now for closing statements, and we're going to have candidate Swanson go first. You have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Okay, first of all, I'm running again because I care for the city of Blaine. I've given a good part of my life into Blaine. We've managed to make Blaine a city that people want to come to. If we haven't been successful, Blaine wouldn't be a city of 70,000 people today when it started with 20-something. So we've succeeded. We have the lowest tax rate, some of the best service. And today I found out that the NorthMetro Chamber of Commerce is endorsing me again through their political active group. So obviously the business community of Blaine feels that I have some reasonable representation for the city. So that's basically, if the voters don't feel that they want somebody with my experience, I will go back gladly to being retired, and I will leave it to other people to try and run the city successfully. Hopefully will, but I could see a very bad year to 18 months with all the new people trying to work together.
Thank you, candidate Swanson. Candidate Saroya, closing statement.
Yeah, so I have full confidence and trust in our mayor and our current city council. I think the new energy is something that we have needed in the city for a really long time. And I think they're doing an incredible job reaching out to the community and having really difficult conversations. So I'm very hopeful in the future of the city and having new energy, new leadership, new ideas. So today actually marks the anniversary of my father's death. My father was an immigrant who came here in the late 1960s. And one thing that I really admired about him was his work ethic. And that's something that I see in Ward 1 residents. Whenever I talk to people, that's something that really stands out. We have an incredible community in Ward 1. We have a culture and a community that has amazing, authentic, hardworking people that deserve better. And that's why I'm running, because we need to do better. The way we did things 30 years ago is not going to work anymore. We need to keep moving Blaine forward with a new city council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes the forum for Blaine City Council Ward 1 special election. Thank you, candidates, for speaking to voters about issues and for stepping up to run for Blaine City Council. Thank you, voters, for your interest in becoming informed voters. If you have additional questions for the candidates, please contact them directly. To register to vote or to update your registration, go to mnvotes.org. I'll do that website one more time here in a minute. At this website, you can enter your address to verify your registration, see a sample ballot, and verify your polling place. You can also request an absentee ballot on this site. So again, that website is mnvotes.gov, minvotes.gov. So we are now in the early voting period, which means you can vote any weekday right here at Blaine City Hall or over at the county courthouse in Anoka. When you vote, you participate in our democracy. You make it stronger and you make it yours. Vote on or before November 8th. Thank you and goodbye.